Let's be honest, most people don't fail to learn English because they lack intelligence. They fail because they carry a deep fear inside them. It's not the grammar or the vocabulary that stops them. It's the fear of sounding foolish, the fear of being judged, the fear of making mistakes in front of others. This fear builds invisible walls in the mind, and behind those walls, their confidence quietly suffocates. I've seen people study English for years, even memorize thousands of words, but they never dare to speak a single sentence out loud. Why? Because fear has replaced curiosity, and fear blocks growth. If you want to learn English very fast, you must begin by rewiring this mindset completely. You must walk away from fear and walk toward curiosity. Fear is heavy, it slows the brain down. Curiosity is light, it lifts the mind up. When a child learns their first language, they don't care if they say the word wrong. They laugh, they try again, and they keep experimenting until they get it right. Their curiosity makes them fearless, and their fearlessness makes them fast. Somewhere along the way, as adults, we lose this spirit. We become so worried about being correct that we stop being alive in the language. And that's the real danger. When learning becomes a performance instead of a discovery, I often think about something Jack Ma once said: don't worry about being successful, just be valuable. The same principle applies here. Don't worry about being perfect in English. Be curious, be adventurous, be willing to explore. The paradox is that the more you chase perfection, the slower you move. But when you chase understanding, perfection quietly follows. The human brain learns at its fastest when it's curious, when it wants to know more, when it's emotionally engaged, when it feels safe to play. Fear signals danger to the brain, and the brain slows down to protect itself. Curiosity signals safety, and the brain opens like a flower. If you want speed, choose curiosity. Start small. When you hear a new word, don't immediately worry about how to spell it or how many grammar rules apply to it. Ask yourself instead, where could I use this word in my life? What kind of story could I tell with it? Can I make a funny sentence with it right now? This approach transforms the word from something cold and mechanical into something alive and personal. When something becomes personal, your mind grabs it and keeps it. And this is what speeds up learning. Emotional connection powered by curiosity. Fear often disguises itself as seriousness. People think, if I'm serious, I will learn fast. But seriousness rooted in fear creates tension. It closes your mouth, locks your shoulders, and shuts down the joy of learning. Curiosity, on the other hand, is playful. It makes you laugh at your mistakes and try again without shame. It gives you the courage to speak even when you know it won't be perfect. And every time you speak, you grow. Every time you stay silent, fear grows. This is the difference between slow learners and fast learners. Not talent, not intelligence, but the ability to stay curious when others give in to fear. Imagine walking into a room full of people speaking English. The fearful mind freezes, thinking, what if I say it wrong? What if they laugh? The curious mind thinks, what new word can I steal from this room today? What accent can I imitate just for fun? The fearful mind stays silent and leaves with nothing. The curious mind speaks, stumbles, laughs, and leaves with 10 new words. Multiply this attitude every day, and you can see how curiosity accelerates growth in ways fear never can. If you want this transformation to last, you must practice it daily. Every time you catch yourself thinking, I might get it wrong, interrupt that thought and replace it with, let's see what happens. This small shift rewires your brain over time. It teaches your mind that learning is not a test, it's an exploration. And exploration is exciting. It pulls you forward faster than you ever expected. The secret is not to push harder, it's to remove the brakes. And fear is the heaviest brake of all. Remember this, English is not an enemy you have to conquer, it's a world you get to discover. Fear makes you see it as a mountain. Curiosity turns it into a playground. One suffocates you, the other sets you free. If you can replace fear with curiosity, your learning speed will not just improve, it will explode. So from today, stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what could I discover? If there's one thing people underestimate when trying to learn English fast, it's the power of emotion. Most learners treat English as if it's just a technical subject, like math or chemistry. They study vocabulary lists, grammar rules, and sentence structures as if they're assembling parts of a machine. But language is not mechanical, it's emotional. It's the way human beings carry their feelings, dreams, and stories into the world. If you want to accelerate your learning, you have to build an emotional connection with English. You must stop treating it as a subject and start treating it as a living experience. Think about this. We remember emotional experiences far more vividly than neutral ones. You may forget what you had for lunch last Tuesday, but you can clearly remember how you felt during your first heartbreak or your first big success. Why? Because emotions carve deep pathways in the brain. They make moments stick. The same principle applies to language. If you connect English words and phrases to your emotions, your brain will lock them in faster and longer than if you simply memorize them. One reason children learn their first language so quickly is because it's wrapped in emotion. Every word they hear comes with love, laughter, comfort, excitement, or even frustration. That emotional charge burns the words into their memory. Adults often strip that away when they study. They try to learn with logic alone, and logic is too cold to make memories stick. You need warmth, you need energy, you need emotional meaning. Let me give you an example. Imagine learning the word hope just as a vocabulary term, H-O-P-E, meaning expectation for the future. You might remember it for a few days, and then it fades. But if you watch an inspiring story about someone who fought through failure and rose again, and they say, "I never lost hope," that word doesn't just enter your memory, it enters your heart. You will never forget it. It becomes part of your emotional world. That's the secret. Emotion is the glue. Jack Ma often talks about how business is about people, not just profit. In the same way, learning English is about connection, not just correctness. If you chase grammar but ignore emotion, you'll get stuck in technical details. But if you chase emotion, grammar will follow naturally. When you care about what you're saying, your mind will automatically search for the right way to say it. The desire to express something real pulls the language out of you faster than any rule book can push it in. So how do you build this emotional connection? Start by surrounding yourself with English content that actually moves you. Don't choose what's recommended for learners. Choose what makes your heart beat faster. If a movie scene makes you cry, watch it again in English. If a speech fills you with fire, write down the words that struck you and speak them out loud. If a song touches your soul, sing it. These moments of emotional impact transform words from foreign objects into personal treasures. And treasures are never forgotten. Another powerful way is to link English to your personal feelings. Write a diary in English, but don't write about the weather. Write about your fears, your hopes, your struggles, your dreams. When you connect the language to your inner world, it becomes part of who you are. You are no longer just learning words, you are expressing your soul through them. And when expression enters, speed follows. Many learners make the mistake of thinking they must be emotionally neutral to avoid mistakes. They want to stay calm so they don't mess up. But passion makes you faster than caution ever will. Think of people falling in love. They speak without thinking, they write long messages without caring about grammar, and somehow they learn incredibly fast. That is the power of emotional connection. It pushes you to communicate, and communication is where real learning happens. Even your mistakes become fuel when you care. If you say something wrong while expressing something you love, you won't feel embarrassed. You'll feel determined to get it right next time. That determination speeds up growth far more than fear does. Emotional energy is like fire, it burns through obstacles, while cold logic merely circles around them. So I want you to ask yourself, honestly, does English feel like a duty or like a doorway to something beautiful? If it feels like a duty, it will always move slowly. If it feels like a doorway, your mind will rush through it. Build this doorway with emotion. Laugh in English. Crime in English. The more emotion you attach, the faster you will fly. Because in the end, language is not just words, it's the voice of the human heart. And when the heart gets involved, the mind has no choice but to keep up. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to learn English quickly is because they isolate the language to just their study hours. They treat English like a visitor who comes for an hour and then leaves, instead of letting it move in and become part of their daily world. This is like watering a plant once a week and expecting it to grow as fast as the one that lives in sunlight every single day. Language grows in the light of daily life, not in the shadows of occasional study. If you want to learn English very fast, you have to surround yourself with it, breathe it, live in it, until it becomes the atmosphere of your mind. I've met people who spent years in classrooms and could still barely speak. And I've met others who never attended a formal class, but learned in half the time simply because they immersed their entire environment in English. They didn't rely on memory, they relied on exposure. Every object they touched, every screen they saw, every thought they had was colored with English. This is what builds speed. Because when your environment speaks English, you stop forcing your brain to learn. It starts absorbing naturally. Think about how you learned your first language. Nobody sat you down with grammar rules when you were 2 years old. You didn't memorize lists of verbs. You simply lived in an environment where everyone spoke it. It was everywhere all the time. Your brain didn't get to choose whether to learn it or not. It had no escape, and so it learned incredibly fast. That same principle works even as an adult. Your brain still responds to saturation. When English becomes the background music of your life, your mind starts dancing to it without you even realizing it. People often say, "But I don't live in an English-speaking country." That's just an excuse. Today you can create an English-speaking world right where you are. Switch your phone and computer to English. Change the language on your apps. Label the things around your room in English: mirror, door, desk, window. Play English podcasts when you're walking. Think in English while you're cooking. Even speak to yourself out loud as you go through your daily routines. These small steps might seem silly, but they create a powerful effect. They blur the line between study time and lifetime until they become the same thing. Jack Ma once said, opportunities lie in the places people complain. Most people complain they don't have time to study English. The opportunity is to stop depending on time and start depending on environment. If your whole environment is English, you don't need to find time, it finds you. Learning becomes constant, automatic, almost invisible. You stop chasing it and start breathing it. There's also a deeper psychological truth here. The brain treats what is familiar as safe and what is rare as threatening. If you only hear English during a study session, your brain treats it like an intruder. It tenses up, it becomes cautious and slow. But if you hear English all day in your environment, your brain accepts it as normal, it relaxes, and relaxed minds learn fast. This is why immersion is so powerful. It removes the mental resistance that slows you down. Another important shift is to change your inner language. Begin talking to yourself in English. When you're thinking about what to eat, think in English. When you're planning your day, plan in English. When you get frustrated, express that frustration in English. This internal shift is critical. External exposure trains your ears, but internal dialogue trains your mind. When your thoughts start coming in English, fluency is no longer something you practice, it's something you live. I know this might feel awkward at first. You'll stumble, you'll mix words, you'll feel strange. That's good. It means your brain is adjusting. It's like moving to a new city. At first everything feels foreign, but soon it becomes home. That's what you want for English, to stop feeling like a foreign language and start feeling like mental home. Don't wait for the perfect moment to create this environment. Build it today with whatever you have. One English song, one English quote on your wall, one English conversation in your head while walking to the market. It might seem small, but small streams create powerful rivers when they flow every day. Over time, this environment will carry you further than any single textbook ever could. Because the truth is, you don't learn a language by visiting it. You learn it by living in it. And if you choose to live in English, even before you feel ready, one day you'll wake up and realize you're thinking, feeling, and speaking it without effort. Surround yourself so completely that English stops being something you do and becomes the air you breathe. One of the most common traps people fall into when learning English is waiting. They wait to speak until their grammar feels perfect, until their accent sounds flawless, until they have memorized just a few more words. They build this imaginary threshold of readiness in their minds, and they keep delaying their first real step. But here's the truth, waiting kills momentum. Perfection is not the doorway to fluency. Expression is. If you want to learn English fast, you have to start speaking before you feel ready. Think about how a child learns to walk. They don't wait until their balance is perfect or until they understand the mechanics of movement. They just stand, wobble, fall, and try again. Every fall strengthens them. Every attempt rewires their brain. Speaking English works exactly the same way. You learn by doing, not by preparing. The act of speaking messy, broken, imperfect, is what forces your brain to connect words, grammar, and sound in real time. That pressure creates growth. Silence never does. I've seen people study for years and still freeze when they open their mouths. They know the theory, they know the vocabulary, but they never train the one thing that matters, courage. And courage only grows through action. Jack Ma often says that when you're small, you have to be quick and brave, not perfect. The same principle applies here. Don't aim to be flawless in your first conversations. Aim to be fearless. Perfection will follow, but only if you start moving. When you speak before you feel ready, something powerful happens in the mind. You stop being a passive learner and become an active user. You stop collecting English as knowledge and start using it as a tool. That shift changes everything. It activates a different part of the brain, the part that learns through experience. Reading teaches you about English, but speaking teaches you in English. The moment your mouth tries to express what your mind is thinking, your brain begins to rewire at high speed. You suddenly discover what words you're missing, where your grammar breaks, what pronunciation feels awkward. And once you see the gaps, you can fix them. But if you never speak, those gaps stay hidden and your progress stays slow. Fear will try to stop you. It will whisper, wait until you're ready. But fear is a liar. Readiness is not a destination, it's a byproduct of doing. You don't get confident and then speak, you speak, and confidence grows from there. The first conversations will be clumsy. People might not understand every word. That's fine. Every broken sentence is a seed of fluency. The only real mistake is staying silent. Start small. Talk to yourself in the mirror. Describe your day out loud while walking. Record short voice notes on your phone and play them back. Have simple conversations with language partners or AI tools that don't judge you. The point is to make speaking a daily habit, not a rare performance. If you wait for perfect conditions, you'll wait forever. But if you speak daily, Even for 5 minutes, you will accelerate faster than people who study for hours in silence. There's also a deep psychological reason this works. Speaking forces you to face your fear, and once you face it, fear shrinks. Every time you survive a conversation, your brain realizes, I didn't die. That wasn't so bad. This rewires your emotional response to speaking. Instead of associating it with danger, you begin to associate it with growth. That emotional shift is what speeds everything up. You stop holding yourself back. You start flowing. Think of it like swimming. You can read 100 books on how to swim, but the water will always shock you the first time you jump in. Yet after a few days of struggling and gasping, your body adapts, and suddenly you're moving with ease. Speaking English works the same way. You can't learn to swim on the shore, and you can't learn to speak in silence. You must jump in before you feel ready. Remember, this fluency is not built in the mind, it's built in the mouth. Every word you dare to speak strengthens the pathways in your brain. Every sentence, no matter how broken, pushes you closer to mastery. The fastest learners in the world are not the ones who know the most. They are the ones who speak the most. So don't wait until you're ready. Open your mouth, stumble, laugh. Keep going, because readiness isn't something you find. It's something you create, one imperfect sentence at a time. Most people think learning English fast is about doing more. More hours, more books, more apps, more grammar drills. They imagine that if they can just overload their minds with enough material in a short period, fluency will appear like magic. But that mindset is misleading. Real speed doesn't come from force, it comes from rhythm. The mind doesn't grow through random bursts of effort. It grows through steady, repeated contact. This is why micro-consistency is so powerful. It may sound simple, even too simple, but it's the most reliable accelerator you can use. Look at how nature builds anything strong. Trees don't grow because they receive one massive flood of water once a month. They grow because they get small doses of sunlight and water every single day. Muscles don't grow from one long workout, they grow from repeated training. The brain works the same way. It learns best when it can rely on rhythm. The problem is that most learners study in heavy, exhausting sessions and then burn out. They push too hard, stop for weeks, and then wonder why their progress is slow. What they don't see is that they are breaking the brain's natural rhythm every time they stop. Jack Ma often says, if you can't do big things, do small things consistently. This is not just good advice for business. It's exactly how you win with language. 10 minutes of focused learning every day beats 2 hours once a week. Why? Because daily practice keeps your mind warm. It keeps English active in your memory, so you're never starting from zero. It's like keeping an engine running at low speed instead of letting it go cold and trying to restart it again and again. When you stay warm, everything moves faster. There's also a psychological reason this works. When you tell your brain, I only need to do 10 minutes, it relaxes. The task feels small, so you actually do it. There's no resistance. And because you do it every day, those small sessions accumulate. But when you tell yourself, I must study 2 hours, your mind resists, it feels heavy, so you procrastinate. One missed day becomes 2, and soon you've stopped. Big effort invites fear. Small effort builds trust. And something interesting happens once consistency becomes a habit. Small sessions naturally grow longer without you forcing them. A 10-minute session often turns into 30 minutes because you've removed the weight of expectation. You're not forcing yourself, you're simply flowing. This flow state is where real speed lives. You are no longer fighting to learn, you are simply showing up, and the learning happens almost automatically. Consistency also gives your brain time to consolidate. The brain doesn't just store what you learn while you study, it processes it afterward during rest. When you study every day, your brain keeps recycling that knowledge, strengthening the pathways. When you study rarely, the brain forgets before it can build those pathways. Daily contact keeps the neural circuits alive and growing stronger, like exercising a muscle every day to keep it flexible. The beauty of micro-consistency is that it fits into any life. You don't need to cancel your work, your school, or your family. You only need to create small English moments every single day. Listen to a 5-minute podcast while brushing your teeth, read one paragraph of an article while waiting for the bus, write 3 sentences in a diary before sleeping. These micro-sessions may seem insignificant, but they compound. One day you look back and realize you've built something powerful, not through pressure, but through persistence. And remember, consistency isn't just about time, it's about presence. If you can give full attention for even 5 minutes, you will grow. If you study distracted for an hour, you will not. The key is showing up fully, even briefly, and then showing up again tomorrow. That reliability creates a sense of momentum, and momentum is what makes speed feel effortless. This is where many people go wrong. They chase motivation. They wait to feel inspired, and when they don't, they stop. But the truth is, consistency creates motivation, not the other way around. Every small daily win builds confidence, and that confidence creates energy. You don't need to be motivated to start. You just need to start small enough that motivation isn't required. If you want to learn English fast, stop asking, how much can I do today? And start asking, what can I repeat every day without fail? Because the race is not won by the one who runs fast for a moment, but by the one who never stops moving. Micro consistency may feel humble, but it is unstoppable. Small steps taken daily will carry you further than giant leaps taken occasionally. And if you stay consistent long enough, what once felt impossible will one day feel effortless.